What if I told you that the company worth over $1 trillion today was once just hours away from total bankruptcy, with payroll bouncing, employees getting fired midweek, suppliers refusing to ship parts, and dreams collapsing, while giants like General Motors and Chrysler begged the U.S. government for bailouts? Welcome to Dollar Decade, the channel where we dive deep into the wild history of money, big business empires, and startup legends that turned pennies into billions. And today we are uncovering the insane true story of how Elon Musk risked absolutely everything in 2008. His entire PayPal fortune, his marriage, his mental health, even borrowing money from friends to pay rent, all to save Tesla from the grave. And buried inside this chaos was a single make-or-break government lifeline of $465 million that quietly transformed Tesla from a dying experiment into one of the most powerful companies on the planet. And by the end of this story, you will not only understand how close Tesla came to extinction, but also the money lessons you can steal to build your own wealth when the world is burning. So if you're into money history and billionaire comebacks, lock in now, because this near-death experience is the blueprint behind one of the richest men alive. And it all started with a dream that wasn't to even Elon Musk's dream to begin with. Tesla Motors was founded in 2003, not by Elon, but by two Silicon Valley engineers, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning, who believed electric cars could be sexy, fast, and desirable at a time when the only EVs on the road looked like science projects with golf cart energy. The company was tiny, underfunded, and treated like a joke by Detroit. But in 2004, a freshly rich PayPal founder named Elon Musk walked in after selling PayPal to eBay for $1.5 billion, personally pocketing around $180 million. And instead of buying islands or retiring at 33, he poured $6.5 million into this obscure electric startup, became chairman, and effectively took control of its destiny. The plan was insane on paper. Build a $100,000 electric sports car called the Tesla Roadster on a modified Lotus Elise chassis, prove EVs could be cooler than Ferraris, then use the profits to fund affordable mass market cars later. It sounded elegant, but the reality was brutal. Tesla had no manufacturing experience, no supply chain muscle, and no tolerance for mistakes. And by 2006, the problems started exploding everywhere. The battery packs were unreliable, the transmissions were a nightmare, suppliers missed deadlines, engineering costs spiraled out of control. And by 2007, the Roadster was already years late and tens of millions over budget. Every startup burns cash, but Tesla was burning it like a jet engine. And then the real storm arrived, 28. The worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Lehman Brothers collapsed, global credit markets froze, venture capital dried up overnight, and even the mighty automakers were begging Washington for help. GM and Chrysler were literally on their knees asking for billions just to survive another month, and if they were drowning, imagine the position of a tiny startup trying to build an electric sports car. Tesla's fundraising rounds collapsed in real time. Investors, ghosted bankers, stopped answering calls, and inside Tesla, the cash balance sank to around $9 million, barely enough to survive a few weeks of payroll. Elon Musk later described this period as hell on earth. The company had promised thousands of Roadsters, but had delivered only about 50 by mid-2008 losses. Mounted costs doubled, and every production delay scared customers and investors further away. This was not a slow death, this was a free fall. And while Tesla was bleeding out, Elon Musk's personal life was detonating at the same time. His marriage to Justine Musk was disintegrating in a bitter divorce. He had already poured over $70 million of his own money into Tesla and SpaceX, and by the end of 2008, he was effectively broke on paper. No liquid cash, no safety net, borrowing money from friends to pay rent, crashing on couches. With two companies on the verge of extinction, he later admitted this was the worst year of his life, but instead of walking away, he did the opposite. In October 2008, he fired Tesla's CEO, took over the role himself, and laid off about a quarter of the workforce to cut costs. A move that looked cruel from the outside but was pure survival logic, because Tesla no longer had the luxury of kindness. It was operating in emergency mode, and the Roadster, the car that was supposed to save everything, had turned into a production nightmare. The transmission design failed repeatedly. Early customers complained about noise, vibration, and reliability. Battery systems had to be redesigned on the fly, and every car sold was losing money. Elon later said bluntly that the Roadster was a disaster. Tesla was losing tens of thousands of dollars per unit. Customers were waiting years for delivery. Deposits were being refunded because people had lost faith. And inside the company, there were whispers that Tesla had days of cash left, not weeks, days. Suppliers were threatening to stop shipping parts. Employees were terrified their paychecks would bounce, and the investor fear was contagious. Not fear of missing out, but fear of losing everything. And just when it seemed the shutdown announcement was inevitable, something quietly happened in Washington that would change Tesla's fate forever. Because buried in the chaos of the 2008 financial rescue was a little-noticed Department of Energy program offering low-interest loans to advanced technology vehicle manufacturers, and Tesla applied desperate, audited, scrutinized, and pushed to the edge, while Elon was literally sleeping on friends' couches. And at the very last moment, days before Christmas 2008, Tesla closed an emergency private funding round of about $40 million that kept the lights on for a few more months. But the real miracle came in 2009 when the Department of Energy approved a $465 million loan to Tesla, money that allowed the company to build its first real factory in Fremont, California, re-engineer the Roadster mess, and start developing the Model S, a car that would ultimately redefine electric vehicles. And here's the part most people miss. This wasn't free money. Tesla had to repay it with interest, and it did years early, but without that government lifeline, Tesla would have died quietly in early 2009, remembered as a failed experiment. Another Silicon Valley fantasy crushed by reality. Instead, it became the foundation of a trillion-dollar empire. And the lesson hiding inside this chaos is brutal and timeless. Every major wealth story is written not in moments of comfort, but in moments of near extinction. Elon Musk didn't save Tesla with genius alone. He saved it with irrational commitment, extreme personal risk, ruthless decision-making, and the ability to exploit cracks in a collapsing system, because while the world was panicking, he was positioning, and that is the hidden pattern behind every billionaire. December 2008 was not a bad month for Tesla. It was extinction month, the kind of moment that ends companies permanently, the kind that never makes headlines because the company simply disappears. Payroll was due in days. The cash account was bleeding down to fumes. Suppliers were already delaying shipments. Engineers were quietly polishing resumes. Inside Tesla headquarters, the unspoken question wasn't, how do we survive next quarter? It was, do we survive this week? Elon Musk had already drained almost every dollar of his PayPal fortune into Tesla and SpaceX, had borrowed from friends, had sold personal assets, and now had nothing left to protect himself. On December 23rd, the board met knowing that if a funding round did not close within 48 hours, Tesla would officially be insolvent. Banks were frozen. Venture capital had collapsed. Christmas was literally around the corner, meaning lawyers, investors, and financiers were about to disappear for holidays. And yet, Musk made the most desperate call of his career. He decided to restructure a last-minute emergency financing round built almost entirely on personal trust and fear of annihilation. The target was $40 million. That number was not strategic. It was survival math. Enough to keep the lights on for a few months. Enough to avoid liquidation. Enough to live. Musk put in the last money he personally had, pushing his net worth temporarily into the negative. He was not protecting himself anymore. He was throwing himself in front of the train. Late on Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2008, at 6 p.m., lawyers finished wiring the final signatures. The $40 million cleared literally in the final hour possible. Had that round closed a day later, Tesla would have legally failed. Musk later said it plainly. It was either that or certain death. But survival didn't mean safety. It meant breathing long enough for a miracle. And the miracle arrived wearing a Mercedes badge. In early 2009, Tesla signed a battery and powertrain supply deal with Daimler, the parent company of Mercedes-Benz. For the first time, a traditional auto giant publicly acknowledged that Tesla's technology was a science project. It was production grade. The deal brought roughly $40 million into Tesla immediately, not as charity, but as partnership revenue. But the real thunderbolt came in May 2009, when Daimler purchased 10% of Tesla for $50 million in cash. That stake wasn't about the money, it was about validation. Overnight, Tesla transformed from a fragile Silicon Valley startup into a legitimate supplier to the global automotive elite. The effect was psychological, not just financial. Engineers who were packing boxes started unpacking. Suppliers returned phone calls. Investors stopped whispering about bankruptcy. Tesla's Roadster production finally stabilized. Deliveries accelerated. For the first time in its history, Tesla felt like a real car company instead of a Silicon Valley experiment taped together with hope and debt. But Musk knew the truth. The Roadster was not the future. It was proof of concept. The real goal was the Model S, a luxury electric sedan that would require hundreds of millions in tooling, factory construction, and supply chain development. Tesla had bought time, not victory. That is when the most controversial chapter of the entire Tesla saga quietly began. In 2007, long before the financial crisis, the U.S. Department of Energy had launched the Advanced Technology Vehicles Manufacturing Program, a loan initiative designed to fund companies developing next-generation fuel-efficient vehicles. It was created under the Bush administration and later administered under Obama. Most people ignored it. Tesla didn't. In June 2009, the DOE approved a $465 million low-interest loan to Tesla. It was not a bailout. It came with milestones, audits, strict performance metrics, and mandatory repayment schedules. The money would fund the Fremont factory, a massive former GM Toyota plant sitting idle, and the full development of the Model S. Critics immediately screamed cronyism. Why was the government backing a risky startup? Why was Musk getting special treatment while Detroit giants were collapsing? The reality was simpler. Tesla had technology that aligned with national energy goals, and the government made a calculated bet that electric vehicles could become an American manufacturing advantage. Tesla accepted the loan in 2010. The Fremont factory roared back to life. Tooling lines were installed, engineers hired. The Model S went from a prototype slide deck to an assembly line reality. By 2012, the Model S launched and instantly obliterated expectations, winning Motor Trend's Car of the Year and outselling gas luxury sedans from BMW and Mercedes. In 2013, Tesla repaid the entire government loan, 9 years early, with interest. The so-called bailout had become one of the most profitable technology investments the U.S. government ever made. Then came the moment nobody thought possible. In June 2010, Tesla went public, raising $226 million in the first American auto IPO since Ford in 1956. Wall Street had written off auto startups decades earlier. Tesla rewrote the rule book. The stock surged. Cash flooded in. The company that had once been days from death was now funding global factories. Elon Musk didn't just survive production hell, he monetized it. By the early 2020s, Tesla crossed $1 trillion valuation, and Musk became the richest man on Earth. The same man who once borrowed rent money from friends was now moving markets with a tweet. And the lessons hiding inside this resurrection are not motivational poster nonsense. They are hard, uncomfortable truths about wealth creation. Elon didn't hedge. He didn't diversify emotionally. He went all in when failure was guaranteed. He used chaos as leverage, acquiring factories and technology at prices that only exist during crashes. He mixed capital sources ruthlessly: personal funds, private investors, corporate partnerships, and government loans, not because it was elegant, but because survival demanded it. He accepted personal destruction as collateral: divorce, isolation, public ridicule, all traded for control. And above all, he persisted when every rational signal said, quit. This is what history never teaches properly. Startups don't fail gradually, they fail violently. They either die anonymously or emerge dominant. There is no middle class of companies. Tesla didn't become a $1 trillion empire because it was brilliant. It became one because it refused to die at the precise moment death was guaranteed. And here's why this story matters for your money moves into 2026. The Tesla resurrection didn't happen during a boom. It happened during the worst financial collapse in generations. That is the pattern. The gold standard died during war. The petrodollar was born during inflation chaos. The internet minted billionaires after the dot-com crash. And Tesla was forged in the ashes of the 2008 meltdown. Wealth is not created when the world is stable. It is minted when the system fractures, and only a few are willing to build while everyone else hides. The next Tesla is not being created in prosperity. It is being forged in the pressure chambers of the next financial disruption. And those who understand the pattern early won't panic. They'll position.